we have here? Two of the same thing. All right. We're about to begin. See what we have open. So over there. Let's update Article 3. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to be working on Article 3. Just got to update the website, and then we can proceed. Let's update this. Welcome. We are going to continue with our constitutional draft. I know some of you have been waiting, and we're going to talk about some new interesting matters and some of the things that we can actually put in place to Ricardo. Yeah man, thank you. Welcome. We're going to talk about some of the things we can put in place to prevent corruption. And I know there are some people who are not religious, right? Or they think, some people think they are not religious. And I'm going to cover that, some of that today. Because some people don't realize what's going on. Just because you think that you don't like something, that does not take you out of a category. There is only one thing we cannot do in this world. Only one thing. Apothecary, Lawful, welcome. Can someone tell me in the chat, what is the one thing we cannot do in this world? Actually, can kind of wait, but I really just one thing. Really just one thing. What do you think is the one thing that we cannot do in this world? And we're gonna get started. Just shaping up these sections so that we can update the documentation on the site, and then we can proceed. Alright, so we have that, we have that section. And here's the final portion. gonna set this, and we're gonna save this, and we're going to update our PDF so that those who wish to download a copy, you can download a copy and you can review it, and you can also make your suggestions, and we will proceed accordingly. All right? All right, so let us update our documents. This is documents. All right. So now we upload them. Put these over here. All right, so that is good. Now all we need to do is update the website sections, and we are ready to proceed. Lawful greetings. Welcome, welcome. We are just about to get started. Just finishing up the editing portion. Alright, that's fine. What's this? Alright, let's go back to this page. And page constitution. Yep. And we're going to add it to this very long document so far. Section 3. See if we can, oh boy. Alright, let's see if we can bring this down to a better level. 3, 4, yeah. So we just need to bold these sections and we will begin. So I want to come up with the answer yet? I say, what is the one thing? Kem, welcome. Lawful. God is good. You say you invite me here. What's this about? This live is about drafting our own constitution. That is what this live is primarily going to cover. We are updating the website so that we can take part together if you want to follow along on your device, or if you want to get a copy of what we are currently drafting. Okay? Almost there, 2 more to go. The documents are already updated, so we are on we're on Article 3. That's what I need to put in this section. Article 3. And put this over here. And we are all done. Alright, update. So, we are good to go. So, let us kill the music. And let us get serious. Because not only are we in serious times, we have a rare opportunity to create history. We have a rare opportunity to actually be the generation that creates not only law and order, that is fair, and bring about, I guess you hear the term prosperity, you hear the term, the good times. We actually have a chance to do that, But people are not realizing that we have this power. People are not realizing that we have this option. It's always an option, We always have to choose between one thing or the other. And every single day, we make choices. Now, I asked a question earlier. I said, what is the one thing in this world that we cannot do? I mean, given the list of possibilities, what is it that we cannot do? The only thing that we cannot do, which is doable, is we cannot do nothing. We cannot do nothing. If we sit down, we're sitting, we're looking, we're listening. So much of our senses are going that it doesn't matter what you do, you're always doing something. Even if you're sitting still, you're standing up, you're standing. You're floating, you're floating. You jump out of one plane, you're just gliding. Try? Yes, you can try. Right? You can do things and not put out your full effort, that is trying. You can do things and have a low expectation, that is trying. But the one thing you can't do is you can't do nothing. To do nothing, even if you're not existing, you are not existing. It doesn't matter. Once you are here in this space, you are doing something. So if you are doing something, why not do something that can impact your environment and your society? Why not do something that can actually make a difference? Why be mediocre? Why come here? Why go through all that you have been through only to settle for, okay, well, maybe I just saw things figure. Why? Why not aim for something bigger and better? Because at the end of the day, we can't stop time. We can't slow down. We can't pause. Time is going to progress regardless of whether or not you choose to participate in some way, shape, or form. Time is moving forward. Can't stop it. So, collectively, we always had the power to do great things. But most of us don't realize it because we are still in prehistoric mode. We are in jungle mode. We are in survival mode. So people don't take a lot of things very seriously. They are worried about how can I continue to survive, not how can I do something important that can change my life or my environment, possibly forever. So that is one of our major problems. We are settling for just what is happening around us. We are settling to accept the society that we see. And we don't realize that we are literally living somebody else's opinions. If we don't come up with our own opinion, the only thing we're really doing is just following the rules that other people made. I am not saying we need to break the rules. But if the rules are not what we want them to be, if they are not equitable, if the rules are not fair to us, why are we settling for less? Why don't we change the narrative? We literally have a chance right now to create history, right? Jamaica has never had a constitution. So, at this point, if we come together and actually put our collective heads together and put in our suggestions and actually build a constitution together. I don't know if we don't understand how important and significant that is. But it literally changes reality if we come together and build a constitution together. We don't have to build every single section individually. We just need input. We need to have people actually say, yes, I want to be a part of history. I want to be a part of my Jamaica. I want to be a part of something that people can look back on and says, wow, my parent or my grandparent helped, assisted, inputted in the constitution that we are now living. That is a legacy I would want to have. I would want to have my children look back and say, yo, you know, say my father or my grandfather did help to write the document here. It don't have to be we are wait for people in a government. So Owen say, so after drafting this constitution, how do we get it ratified? One step at a time. It is not as hard as people think. Damien, welcome. Lawful. Ratification and recognition and all them something that is the easy part. We are not worried about that right now. The important thing is to have national consensus. That is the important thing. Everybody understanding what it is we're trying to achieve and actually take part in achieving it. That is what is important. Did you know that when the Constitution framework that was drafted in 1962 was ratified, did you know that it states that any changes to the Constitution that is significant or are affecting the people, the change must have a referendum? And a referendum meaning the public needed to have significant input and vote on it, a national vote. If that does not happen, which the government tried to eliminate before, if a referendum doesn't happen, no constitutional change is not supposed to go into effect. So if we as a people can come together for one thing, even one thing at a time, like I said, what we as a people have accomplished in our lifetime. Ricardo said, one mind to be free and fair and live. Exactly. What can we say we as a people from we born until now? What can we say we as a people accomplish? Not tell me say reggae music, reggae did there a long time. Not tell me say culture did there a long time. What have we in the past 40 years have accomplished as a people? Absolutely. Agencies and agents of the state are making a mockery of the Constitution and general laws of the country. I guess in country you're meant to put. I agree. You see, if the Constitution was actually taken seriously by the agents of government, we would not have the problems we have today. The problems we are facing today, we would not have them. But we cannot blame government alone. The people have been ignorant throughout this entire process, throughout this entire time, from 1962 until now. The people have not taken part in government. The people have not held the government accountable. The people have not inputted. They have not changed the voting system. They have not changed the power structure. They have not done anything. Well, we heard that before, right? We are not here to bash the system, right? We know there are problems, and we know that the situation is not going to fix itself. Exactly, Ricardo. The problem is that we as a people don't believe we have the power government does. Right? And that is something that is taught to people, right? People look and then follow. Monkey see, monkey do. And the other thing is, you see, because you can literally be doing nothing. You can be in your house and you can be unalive by the security forces, claiming that they have information and they have tips and they have this and that and they're running by you. And in some cases, them just take people alive. You don't have no say, you don't get figure out court, nothing at all. Right? So, sometimes you don't have to be doing anything. But if you live in fear all the days of your life, you do nothing. You literally do nothing. You are so cowardice that you just live a mediocre life and free and just talk. We don't need to oppose. We don't need to conflict. We don't need to do any of those things. What we can do is we can rewrite the power structure. Pretty simply. We draft an actual constitution. And that is what we are here doing today. Right? We don't oppose the current power system. That is not going to work. And I do not recommend nobody go up against a government. Absolutely not. This is not an anti-government page. This is not an anti-police page. They are doing their job. Let them do their job. What I always say, do not argue with the police on the side of the road. I have never advocated to confront any public official. Ever. So please be clear on what we are talking about. Right? So, that being said, let us continue our constitutional draft. We were just playing catch up for the people who may have been new, right? Your man say the state will destroy itself eventually. Well, guess what? We are not going to wait for that. We are not going to wait for that. So here we are on the computer, right? And we are on voiceofjamaica.com. You scroll down, you click on the first post where it says New Constitution. Click on that. And here we have the constitutional draft or the PDF edition. Or you can scroll down and you can make a suggestion, constitutional draft suggestion. So if you want to add something, you can use this form right here and you can submit your suggestions to be added. All right. So let us take a look at our current draft and we will go from there. So last time we had Article 2, right? So now we will take a look at Article 3. Let's see if we can. This is Article 2. And let us go over our new addition, which is Article 3. And Article 3 deals with criminal law and public order. Definition of crime, enforcement authority, and accountability. Now, again, like we said before, this is just a draft. So once the draft is complete, we are going to start integrating suggestions, both on the live and also for those that submit actual suggestions to be included in the draft when we are going to complete it, right? So, Section 1, Purpose of Criminal Law. Now, before I go into this, remember, people, many people shy away from reading, many people shy away from the Constitution and those documents because, one, they are so lengthy, And number two, they might have language in there that is not English. It is not readily understood by the people who are reading it, especially people who are not legally inclined. So if we're going to draft a constitution for the people, it should not have foreign language like legalese, Latin, and all these other terms that may not necessarily be circulating in society. So we are going to stick to 100% common English, right? So that is one of the purpose of this constitution. Plain language, no more Latin and legalese, and no more common law. Get rid of that crap. Section 1, purpose of criminal law. 1, criminal law exists to protect the safety, dignity, and peace of the people. Plain and simple, right? If something is in violation of the safety, dignity, or peace of the people, that is the basis, the very basic development of criminal law, right? So it is simply a protection mechanism. 2, a crime is an act that intentionally causes serious harm to another person, to the public, or to the security of Jamaica. 3, no act shall be considered a crime unless it is clearly defined within this constitution. And when we do things like this, it confines the definitions, it confines what can be caused to say this is a crime and this is not. Because if we cannot agree on what a crime is or what the law says, and we have to be going to 4 and 5 different documents to find it, that is the basis for confusion, right? So we want to make things simple. If it's not in the Constitution, then it is not considered within the law. Section 2, elements of a crime. For an act to be considered a crime, the following elements must exist. A prohibited act, which is a clearly defined action that violates the law, right? 2, intent or knowing conduct. The person understood or intended the action. 3, harm or risk of harm. The act caused or created serious harm to a person or the public. If any of these elements are absent, the act shall not be considered a crime. Now, where have you ever seen a body of law define the term a crime? I have looked at several constitutions, you see, and all of them remove the definition of crime so that Parliament or some other government structure can redefine it. And even when they have the chance to redefine it, they do not list what a crime is. It is now left up to the courts to determine by some other mechanism to determine what they consider a crime under common law now. So we are taking away that power from legislative bodies to keep moving around the needle to tell us what a crime is. Because that is exactly what is happening today, and that is why people don't know what the law says, because it keeps changing. So when we have something definite and fixed like this that cannot be changed by just some act of parliament, then that is when we know for sure what a crime is and what a crime is not, because it is a very simple definition. Prohibited act, intent, and the harm itself. Section 3, the presumption of innocence, which is very basic and is currently being ignored in our judicial systems. 1, every person accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty. 2, the burden of proof rests entirely on the party making the accusation. 3, guilt must be proven through clear evidence presented in open court. Very simple. We cannot be calling people to court or dragging people into court and asking them guilty or not guilty. It is like you're still in slavery. If somebody is accusing you, they should already provided the proof and the evidence already available so that now you can be tried. And then, based on the evidence that exists and the circumstances, That is how you are judged. You should not be asked whether or not you are guilty or not. Everybody should have a trial. Every single person should have a trial based on evidence and facts. 4. Standards of proof. 1. Criminal guilt must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. Now, this is an important one. We're going to pause here for a second and talk about this. Right? A lot of times, we hear the term guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But you don't hear what a reasonable doubt is, or how do you prove something beyond a reasonable doubt? Because many times I hear and I see judges making decisions and saying, well, I don't believe you. I don't believe a reasonable person would think, say, you are innocent. Or I don't believe that any reasonable person would believe, say, your story is correct. And the judge is a single individual making the determination. So if the judge just don't like you or how you talk or your demeanor or something, if him decides to him not believe you for whatever reason, that is what he's ruling on. And I don't think that is fair. There's no way you're going to have fairness if you don't set a standard of what reasonableness is as something written down. It cannot be somebody's opinion. That is ridiculous. 2. Evidence must be reliable, verifiable, and subject to examination in court. Right? 3. Evidence obtained through coercion, deception, or unlawful intrusion shall not be used. Very simple. Very simple. Section 5. Categories of crime. Criminal acts shall fall into the following categories. 1. Crime against persons, which includes violence, assault, homicide, sexual crimes. 2. Crimes against property, theft, fraud, destruction of property. 3. Crimes against public trust, corruption, abuse of public authority. 4. Crimes against national security, treason, espionage, organized violence. 5. Crimes against public safety, reckless actions causing serious harm. Right? So, we don't need 50 different paragraphs to tell we what this constitutes and what can be considered and this and that. And you just list the basic tenets of what the subject matter entails. Right? You have the categories and you basically most likely are going to fall into one of these. Right? Section 6. Equality under criminal law. 1. The criminal law applies equally to all persons. 2. No public official, military officer, or government authority shall possess immunity from criminal prosecution. 3. Any person who violates the law shall be subject to the same judicial process. Right? So, when we remove immunity, right? That is where we start getting real and true fairness and justice. If somebody knows that they will not be prosecuted no matter what, that is where corruption starts to breed. Because now, whatever actions you take, you know you're not going to face any consequences. And that is where a lot of public officials get away. And that is why they act a certain way. So when we remove immunity from any office, because what? The public is not immune from prosecution. So how can someone under the authority of the public be immune from prosecution? It doesn't make any sense. So we would have to remove something like this if we're going to have fairness in society. Right? Section 7, Law Enforcement Authority. The enforcement of criminal law shall be carried out by the Public Peace Service of Jamaica. Again, can give it whatever name, right? But this is just a placeholder. The Public Peace Service shall operate under the authority of the Constitution and the supervision of the parish leadership. And this is another important thing, We cannot just have a so-called national police force. We need to have local authorities that the police answer to. Because, as we can see from current examples, the commissioner can come out and say one thing, and the police them do something else. Because where are going to do? Go around in each parish and go monitor them? Can't do that. So if you have a local parish command, that means when we have egregious acts going on, immediately they can be addressed. Immediately. 3. Law enforcement officers shall act only within clearly defined legal authority. Alright? Self-explanatory. Section 8. Limits on enforcement power. No person may be detained without lawful cause supported by evidence. Key thing. Supported by evidence. And the evidence has to be in line with your duty. Right? You cannot have someone who is supposed to be dealing with traffic out there stopping and searching people. That's a conflict of duty, conflict of authority, conflict of everything. If someone is going to be out there for whatever reason doing a duty, it needs to be authorized and specified, right? Can't have one cap fits all. 2. Searches of homes, persons, or private property require lawful authorization supported by evidence of criminal activity. This thing about we receive a tip, and then when it comes down to it and you request the evidence in court, the tip cannot be found. There was no call record can be found. All of them something they must stop. And that is where the immunity is going to come into play. Because if it is found that someone is harmed because of an unlawful search or some kind of unlawful activity by the security forces, they should be prosecuted just as well. Like I said, we are all for cleaning up crime, But you have to do it with integrity. You have to do it with dignity. You cannot just go out there and do things by yourself, on your own authority. No. If you do things and you harm people, and it is not justified, you're supposed to get the same punishment as somebody else who did not have that public heart. 3. Use of force must be reasonable and necessary to prevent harm. And this is, again, self-explanatory. If you're going to use force, it has to be proportionate. Can't just get up and I treat everybody like, say, them do something. Section 9. Arrest procedures. A person may be arrested only when there is clear evidence that a crime has been committed. 2. The arrested person must be informed immediately of the reason for the arrest. 3. The arrested person must be brought before a lawful court within a reasonable time. Now, this reasonable time business here, I can definitely see this changing when we update the draft. If someone is arrested, they must be brought before a judge within 24 hours. Even if it's Saturday evening, a judge must always be on call. Always be on call. You can't have people sit down and wait for justice. That should not work. So this definitely going to be changed in the future. Right? Section 10. Protection against abuse of authority. 1. Law enforcement officers are personally responsible for unlawful actions taken under color of authority. Now, for those who don't know what color of authority is, right? It is basically you are acting as if you are an official on duty when your duty does not encompass what you are doing. Right? So if, for example, the law say, if you're going to do a search, you need to have a warrant, right? You can't go out there and I say, boy, you never want this somebody get away. So you just make sure you apprehend them before you get the warrant. That is color of authority. That is not a part of your duties. That is not a part of the law. That is not a part of the procedure. So you can't act on your own and think you are now protected as a law enforcement officer. Right? So you can't act under color of authority doing unlawful actions and then justifying it, say, X, Y, or Z. 2. Abuse of authority by a public officer shall constitute a criminal offense. Because remember, you're in a public office of trust. Everybody I trust you. Everybody I look up to you for protection. So if you abuse your authority when everybody's guard is down, that has to be criminal. Especially when you're walking around with lethal weapons. So we have to draw the boundaries. Section 11, sentencing principles. Punishment for criminal conduct must be clearly defined in law. 2. Proportionate to the harm caused. 3. Determined through lawful court judgment. Right? Everybody is dealt with fairly. Punishment may include restitution to victims, require public labor, restrictions on liberty, removal from public office. Right? Depending on the severity, obviously, will decide the punishment. E. Other lawful penalties established under this Constitution. Section 12. Restitution to victims. Courts shall prioritize restoring victims harmed by criminal conduct. Right? We cannot be waiting to be restored whole. This is why we say, you see, any criminal action that is brought in the court is of priority. That's why we give definite time frames. So people now wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years for justice. We need to have these things defined in law. Right? If we have these things defined, let me see if I can zoom this in. If we have these things defined in law, it is very clear for everybody to know what their punishment would be if they violate it. Right? So once it is clear that we have a violation and we have a judgment, restoring the victims, to compensate for whatever harm was done must be expedient. Right? 2. Offenders may be required to provide compensation or labor to repay harm caused. So if you go out there and violate people, a part of the law is what? Either you pay for the damage and or you work it off in a labor. Because you are now indebted to society. And it is only fair that if you cause somebody harm, that you work it off. Get rid of the prisons and put people back to be productive in society. You go sweep road, you go chop down bush, you go clean up the roadside them and them something there. You know, go sit down in a jail and look and a name food. No. Put you back in a society to be productive. Right? Section 13, transparency of justice. 1. All criminal proceedings shall be documented and publicly recorded. Right? Just like in civil cases, we have video, we're supposed to have audio, and we're supposed to have transcription in writing. Everybody's supposed to have access. Everybody in the public supposed to can go look up one court case and see and hear what go on. In this day and age of technology, like I said, it is absolutely shameful that we don't have these things already in place. And I like say we don't have the money to do it. Anyways. 2. Evidence, rulings, and judgments shall become part of the permanent record. We're not supposed to have to ask for see records. I can never ever get the sense in that. If the records exist, why we the public will pay a fee to the tax dollar not have access to it right away? The records are supposed to be open. If we want to find out who is accessing records or whatever, we not give everybody one ID. You go in, you sign up, and you just use your ID for access whatever you access. That's simple. We don't need to be hiding records. The only people who hide things is people who have something to hide. Section 14, public duty. Every person in Jamaica shares responsibility for maintaining peace and order. Make we say that again. Because we can't have an imbalanced constitution, right? Every person in Jamaica shares responsibility for maintaining peace and order. So just because we might have police or just because we might have some kind of enforcement mechanism, that don't mean say we don't have a duty to ensure say everybody live in a peace. And everybody have order when we go out there in the public to interact with each other. It is because we break that promise between each other. When some people feel like say them better than you or them better than me or them to take your things. That is where crime comes in, because you are now disturbing somebody's peace and disturb the public order. Right? That is how criminality come about. That is why we describe it as criminal, because if me can walk out a door in a peace and I feel worry about whatever, then me no want you in my society. You will get punished for that because everybody else want peace and happiness. Peace and order, right? Citizens may report criminal activity and cooperate with lawful investigations, right? 15. Limitations on criminal law. Criminal law shall not regulate personal conduct that does not harm others, right? So obviously, if we're going to call something a crime, it cannot be something that doesn't cause somebody else harm. That's why we have to have all these definitions. See? So anything that we define as a criminal act is obviously something that is causing some kind of harm or destruction. See? 2. Private actions that do not threaten public safety shall not be treated as crimes. And we all know what public safety is, right? If a bunch of people go to a road, then come out of the yard and then go to a road and do whatever. As long as you are not threatening somebody else or their property, there is no way that can be considered a crime. We have to be setting those bounds, because obviously some people don't believe so. Then think that just because they write something on paper, that will constitute a crime. Section 16. Duty of the state. The state of Jamaica must ensure fair enforcement of law, protection of the innocent, accountability for wrongdoing, and preservation of peace and safety. Very simple duties, but they are monumental. Because when we say fair enforcement of law, it has to be justified. We can't have a government that is doing whatever it pleases and then come and try explain. We don't want an explanation. Just do your job. Just follow the law. This is why we as a people have to retain some power. We cannot vote away our full power. If something is going wrong, what we do? We call a meeting and we vote them out. We bring them to court, and if they are doing some wrongdoing, they are prosecuted. We cannot be waiting and saying there's immunity and then can't get prosecuted because they're a public official. That should be removed. The only thing that can come from that is corruption. If someone is not going to be punished for wrongdoing, it's just like you have one house and they pitney them in the house. One of the pitney them now get no beating at all, no matter what they do. And the rest of them, as something go on, so then get beer lick. Everybody else are going to resent that somebody they will have the immunity. The same thing happen in a society. Some people are get favoritism. And everybody else have to struggle and I go through the processes. And some people just elevate so. That can't go on. This is why. Make we have a conversation. This is why we set rules and bounds for everybody. Nobody not supposed to have no special treatment. Nobody not supposed to have no upper hand. If any kind of treatment are going, and we as a collective, we as a people, if we come together and say, all right, we are going to change this for the benefit of everybody. Nobody can the up yourself and the rest they down yourself. That not going to work. I just straight corruption that. And if we can't control who is getting punished, how are we going to control our happiness and our peace? You see, this foundation that we're looking at is where everything starts. If we define the law and we put the law in place and the law becomes effective, we the people now retain the majority power. Imagine your parish having its own parish command and you can focus on all of the issues you're having one by one. There is something that I could not put into the document just yet. Right? But we're going to talk about it because at some point it's going to go in there. Let me go back to the comments because I never did really I focused on the comments them earlier. Before we go too further. In Rwanda, the citizens have a day each week when they clean up their environments, not once per year. That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. There must be an injured party. Absolutely. Absolutely. Either your own property or you are harmed yourself. We can't have victimless crimes. Them something they get rid of. We can't do them something there. Right? If you can protect whatever you have, right? Somebody else cannot be held liable. You have to show damage in order to bring a case in court. If you don't have your evidence, that case is just going to get nullified right away. Right? We can't keep having these things happen where people get caught up in situations and know your own voice is being used against you. Imagine that. If you are presumed innocent, nobody can ask you no question. Nobody not supposed to ask you what you think or what happened and this and that and whatever. Come with your own evidence. Right? We can guarantee access to our beaches and waterways. Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine we the people are give the government power and the government are restrict everything around you. The government are say if you don't have a license, you can't put up a jerk pan. If you don't have a license, you can't go do little fishing, little this, little that. Ridiculous. But again, I don't expect everybody to know, say, there are ways to deal with these things. But at the same time, we as a people have to see the ridiculous nature of what we are going through. We are not big corporations. Right? Jamaica is the only island that privatized the beaches. Well, I'm not 100 on that, but maybe so. Maybe so, because when we look at the amount of revenue Jamaica make per year from tourism alone, just from tourism, we have to wonder. This is why, again, Transparency is important, you know. In any government structure, transparency is important. To this day, we don't know how much money Jamaica have in the consolidated funds. We talk about this several times. None of our generation never see none of them account there yet. We never see none of those account balances. We don't see no ledger. All we are here about, oh, this report and that report, and this is taxpayers' money you are spending, and this is this, and this is this figure over here, and we're going to get this. We have $2.3 billion this year for road work. We have 20 million for one drill. We have this, we have that. If we can spend so much money on old bus, if we can spend so much money on this and that, I want to see what is in the piggy bank. Why we even have to ask? That is so absurd. If I fill with money, why we have to ask for seat? Why? What is so secretive about it? We don't even see. Anyways, if a prime minister can get so much of a salary per year, right? I think it can up to 20 something or 30 million per year. You really have to wonder. You really have to wonder. But all of that being said, right? Not only can we fix all of that, we can put measures in place that ensures that we don't end up here again. The balances should be made public on a site in real time. You see, even if they don't do that, the other thing that is of concern is this. We don't hear about anything business-wise until them do it already. If it is not a tax, if them are going to buy something, we don't hear about it until them buy it already, until them procure it, until they have it in their hand. And then they say, oh, we bought this. Look on the bus thing. When we hear about it, them contract they sign already. Look on the drill. When we hear about it, it reached Jamaica already. Why are we not hearing and seeing these contracts before they sign all of these so-called agreements? Spending millions and billions of dollars. If I fill with money, we don't have a say in how it is being used. I just saw it go. We are children. We don't know. We don't know how money is supposed to be spent or what is fair. Why is it a secret? How do we know you went through the proper processes to find out if you are getting a good deal? Anyways, we now harp on that. I see the agents are back. They start reporting the live. You know, last year I heard plans to update the hospitals. We heard of plans. Right? Sometimes they do. But we, the people working are late night in the evenings and not in layman's terms, so we can't. I heard of renovations to the hospitals, and they're gonna use this much billions to fix this and renovate and build another one and whatever. I say, if we have $2 to $5 billion to renovate or build a hospital, right? How come we couldn't just use one, even to say, I'm not gonna say, why couldn't we use 5 million and fix one hospital every year? Because I know for a fact that if we are going to purchase, let's say, hospital beds, right? We're not talking about queen size, plush top, something. We are talking about basics, right? You want to tell me, say, we couldn't use $5 million and buy proper beds, proper sheets, cleaning supplies, and necessities for one hospital with $5 million, rather than spend $1,000 million, which is a billion, right? $1,000 million you're going to spend to refurbish and renovate an entire hospital. I don't know what it entails because we don't get to see the plans, we don't get to see the contracts. We don't even know what they're talking about. Then just say them are going to build or them are going to renovate, and they don't want people thief to steal them and all them something there. One heap of commotion, right? But if you're going to spend 1,000 billion, 1,000 million, which is 1 billion. As a matter of fact, I think it's more than a billion. It was like 2 point something billion. Why don't you ensure that the hospital them have the necessities that they need? It is mind-boggling, because most of the hospitals nothing really wrong with them. It is just how it is kept. The stink in some of these places. Nobody is cleaning them on a regular basis. Nobody is ensuring that these people are doing their jobs properly and not just walking around. Everybody a friend, and them to ignore people. If some people are called to them, they act as if everybody is a priority and you are not in a rush to do or go anywhere or do anything. From your walk in, think about it, right? If you have a place and customer service is far off, meaning you walk in, people, some emergency happen, somebody is rushing in, a cut, a scrape, whatever, a ball for pain, right? And you want to tell me people are sitting there for days, sitting and waiting for days, and nobody get to them yet. But yet still, you can spend $2 and $3 and $5 billion to upgrade the hospitals, bring them up to standard. $1,000 million, which is 1 billion. You see, 1,000, $1,000 million, is 1 billion. So when you talk about 2, 3, and 5 billion, we're talking about like 5,000 million. You see, some of these things cannot be, you can't fathom them. You can't fathom them, because when you think about a hospital bed is not going to cost even 100 US. You buy them in bulk, it's not going to cost even 100 US. So where is these millions a go? Where is these billions going? Somebody say, then we have money a transfer to accounts and, the record might be missing. Record missing? People, we know, even from the basic sides, if me for transfer some money to you, is somebody name it in a, or it have it in a one corporation name we owned by somebody, you can't lose wire transaction records. It is impossible. The banking system is literally built on a record system. So you can't lose a transfer. You can't know where it go. It's just impossible. But you see, because them know say most people don't understand how the systems work, them will just come up with and tell you one heap of garbage. Oh, you know, we can't find out where this money go. Huh? What do you mean? It have to transfer from an account to an account. It can't transfer from an account to one bucket. What do you mean you don't know where it go? You see how absurd it is? If me send one email, how you gonna tell me say you don't know where the email go? You check your sent folder. If somebody don't get it, you send it again. Anyways, we're not gonna go into the weeds here. Right? The point is, we have so many things that we can fix readily. Because, point and fact, if we have access to these systems, we are smart enough to maintain them. This is not rocket science. And if it is, we have people who know rocket science. This is not something that is out of the league of the common man or the common woman. Because guess what? It is the common man and woman who is going to work and maintaining these systems. So, when people think, well, if the government don't do this, how this will get done? How you think they were getting done in the first place? It is not the government that does anything. The government is an overseer. The government is a facilitator. They don't do any work. Their work is to draft bills and documents and negotiate contracts and do trade and commerce and international matters. The government is not doing anything locally that the local people can do. So once anything changes within a system, the people who are on the island already can get the work done. If they can't get the work done, guess what? Somebody else can. So when we talk about a constitutional redraft or a constitutional drafting, it is not necessarily to say the entire system is going to crumble. Everything that is there can be facilitated by local labor, people who already know how the thing's supposed to work. W Ice. Welcome, welcome. I look like a fat finger that. So let us continue taking a look at this draft that we have here, right? So the reason for this new section is to set out the criminal law boundaries, right? If we set out in definite detail what constitutes criminal action, it makes the society not only stable, but it ensures that everybody is competent of the criminal laws. We don't need 15 different bodies of documents for people to learn. If we can put in basic language what constitutes a crime and what constitutes wrongdoing and what constitutes criminal action, then we can truly say nobody can be ignorant of the law. Right? And that is why we have to redraft this thing. I think that if this is something like this is introduced into schools, where children start learning this from a very young age, right? Primary school, high school, I don't think we would have much of a problem in a society. I honestly don't. I think a lot of the problems that we face, where people don't know what the law is and people don't know how they should conduct themselves, is because we don't have any morality training. We don't have any training on the law. We don't have any kind of idea how we are supposed to behave in society in many cases. The basic ways of how we should be acting within society is not taught to us in schools. We literally figure it out as we go. If somebody not getting in trouble, that is what we start mimicking. That is what we start doing. And now, when it comes to the law, you have an entire separate section of society becoming an expert at the law, and now you have to pay for it. Right? That needs to stop. That needs to stop. So again, this is only a framework, right? This is a draft. And I look forward to people actually looking at the document, critiquing it, looking at what can be changed, what can be upgraded, what can be added, what can be modified, so that we as a people can come together and say, yes, we input into this, we brainstorm it, this feels like something that can benefit everybody. This feels like something that can bring about peace and order within society. Because once we take care of the basics, a lot of the things that we are enduring are going to be fixed. A lot of the restrictions that we have would go away. Because not only is the punishment more severe, we will start having true equality. I said, I got to talk about something. I just remember. No, we have not talked about serious crimes, right? Like very serious things, like someone going out there. The one thing I didn't put in there is if someone does something egregious, right? Something that is unexcusable, like RAPE or unaliving or, you know, just terrible acts. What do we do with those people? Couple of years ago, I said, I had the thought. I was reading through the Bible again, right? And then I started digging up some African history. And you know what they used to do in ancient times when people did egregious things? That is where hanging come from, you know. They used to get rid of these people. Why? Why would they take someone's life because of a criminal act, right? The reason they did that was because they considered it the basis for corruption. Meaning, once you do something like that, you are tainted. And most likely, if you do a penalty and that penalty does not confine you forever, you are most likely going to do it again. So instead of them waiting and looking and seeing if this person is going to change, what then do? Then get rid of you right away. So that means that anybody who did that think about do that and thinks them not get a simple punishment, that come out of them head right away. Because them know so them not going to live to see any benefit from that. You know, them used to take off a certain limb, right? For certain criminal offenses. You got thief, cut off on your hand. Right? Your RAPE, them cut off the something there. Right? Again, it all depends on how society feels these matters should be dealt with. We don't leave this up to government because the government is not necessarily affected. It is the society who determines what the punishment should be for these egregious acts. But one thing for sure, if you get rid of corruption from the onset, you don't have to deal with it again. It is that simple, especially if we have a surveillance society where we have cameras, public cameras, right? Nobody no care what go on in the public. It is only when something bad happens we really go and look on a camera, don't? Ra, lawful welcome. It is only to review what happened. That is the only time we really care about what is recorded on a camera. So if something is affecting society, or something is affecting a right, or something is affecting a person, that is the purpose of a camera at that time. If there is nothing happening, we're not business about what going on camera. Right? We don't look at good. We don't need for a review good. Because that is supposed to be the basis, the foundation. But once something happens, if we have the capability, it is very easy to show whether or not you commit a crime, don't? That is why body cams should be mandatory. That is why public cameras should be mandatory. Because if something happens, we don't need to hear your story. We should be able to just look at the evidence and make a determination. Case closed. No begging and pleading. Everybody have sense. Nobody now walk around drunk all day. So you can't come with excuse. If you decide not to think about what you are going to do, whatever consequence you receive as a result of your action, you just have to take it. But we can't have a stable society if we don't have a balance and finding a way to get rid of corruption. Because guess what? You see, some things don't change people, you know. So we have to realize that if we have a punishment for a certain thing and it's not working, what we have to do? We have to upgrade it. Upgrade the pain. And sometimes we just have to get rid of the corruption. But nowadays, what do we have? We have a box. We have a cell. And people go sit down for a time and come back out. And them do either, sometimes they do the same thing, sometimes they do worse. Sometimes them change. But what is the risk factor? That is a problem. If we really want to get rid of crime, we don't put crime back on the street. If we're going to put crime back on the street, we make it be productive. We use that to our benefit as a public. Give them public service things to do. Give them supervision. Right? Any place where we see corruption, we have to find a way to mitigate it. So that way, when we end up in a situation where we start seeing that we generally have peace, what we do? We upgrade the penalties as well. So we start reduce it more. But we the people need to make those determinations. We can't leave that up to somebody else. If we keep on leave things up to a small body of people, we are always going to get oppressed. That was the original purpose of the zombie dust that is commonly attributed to Haitians. You know, so I never hear what I want still. But hey, there are a lot of things that we can accomplish as a people, but we cannot leave it up to others to get it done. And this is one of the steps that we can do to start. Imagine, now here is one of my original thoughts a year ago that we talked about on the live. I don't know if some of you were here at that time, but I said this. One of the reasons why we have people who don't really care what happened about things in the public, right? Once they are not living in a certain area or they are not being bothered, they don't really care what going on. They just go do what them I do, get them business done and go back to their yard, right? Them not really care. Now, what if we had a stake in the public? What if we had an investment in the public, right? Let me give you a sweet example. Let us say we have a surplus in our consolidated fund, right? Just for word speaking, let's say we had $40 trillion, right? 40 trillion Jamaican dollars in our consolidated fund. And obviously, well, I'm not going to say obviously, but let's say it is a surplus. We have a surplus of half of that, right? We are doing all kind of things. But now, because of the amount of funds we are bringing back in, instead of us trying to find ways to spend that money, we start giving people stakes in the government, right? Not in the government, in the funds. So at the end of the year, let's say they're supposed to be taxes due and all of them something, right? Instead of you filing taxes, if you have been a productive member of society, right? You get a check at the end of the year, or you get a bank deposit at the end of the year, right? For your contribution to society. So if you, for example, you come to community meetings, or you do some community work, or you input your expertise, or you do some volunteering, something where you contribute back to society, right? It don't have to be every day, it don't have to be every week. But you have a little threshold. You say, okay, you contribute back to society so that we can have a better Jamaica. And at the end of the year, when we call it bonus time come around, use the common terminology, bonus time come around, if you meet your community threshold, you get a deposit. Everybody get a fair share. It no matter how much you have before, everybody just get one fair share. Let's say everybody get a $1 million, right? If everybody get 1 million, that is what? 3 billion? So, everybody getting $1 million, you know, we still wouldn't even reach half of what our surplus is, right? But that would be somewhat of a, I wouldn't even say significant benefit, you know. It would have been something where people can now look at it as, not only is my community supporting me, I am supporting my community, making it better. Now, let me ask you a question. Who do you think would turn that $1 million down? Who would turn down $1 million just to do a little community work every year? Free and clear, no taxes, no restrictions, no, you just get that. Listen, in 24 hours, everybody have the $1 million by the on December, let's say December 20, from December 20 to December 21st, everybody account, boops, 1 million. Just by completing your community service for the year. So every month, let's say every month you need to do 5-hour community service, right? So 5, 12, 60. So 60 hours for the year. Community service. Would you do that to get $1 million? Is there anybody who would say no? Let me see if nobody are going to say no in the comments. Ricardo said, I would teach people how to be better. So nobody would turn down the $1 million to be a part of society, to help to build society better. And we can come up with criteria. If you see something, say something. If somebody Here what we can bring back. Citizens arrest. If we have somebody who rob one store, if you help in apprehending that robber, you get $50,000 right away. Who wouldn't stop somebody who rob one store? Tell me if that is an incentive or not. If we say, all right, if somebody do such and such, here is the incentive, immediate incentive to make sure we stop crime and violence, to make sure we stop this, to make sure we keep society not only morally but physically safe. I think we know that put police out of work. All right, let's say a man have one gun. Remember, you know? Remember, if we have, because in most places you're going to have more than 10 people in the public, you know. So even if a man have a gun, and you know say, a $50,000 that I look on you, if you don't catch him. And remember say, we are going to have licensed firearm holders. So, him have to be a really brave man or woman, me don't know. If you really try that, because if you know say, immediately you have a bounty on your head, once you do any kind of wrongdoing, me can almost guarantee a man are going to take up a big stone and try lick him down and run go catch him. Me can almost guarantee that. For 50 grand right away? You tell me. If we put exactly, if we put social incentives into the public, right? Where people immediately get restitution by capturing criminals and bringing them in or calling the police. I think we would not have much of a crime problem. I don't think so. If we say, all right, if we know say somebody have drugs, right? And we are talking about dangerous drugs here. And for each pound, you know, we quantify it, you know. So for each pound of dangerous drugs that you help the police to find, you get, let's say, $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever. Make up a number, right? For each quantity of whatever that you aid the police in finding, you're immediately qualified to get that reward, right? And you set a minimum. Let's say you say, all right, $20,000 minimum. For every ounce or for every pound that is on top of that, it multiply or it add on whatever. You think, say, nobody are going to about the place, but them do that no more? Like, really and truly, do you think we would have a problem catching everybody out there where I do foolishness? I don't think so. I think within 2 years, we would probably get rid of crime and violence. Because now, if we don't have crime and we don't have violence, right? We still have social incentives where if you teach, if you do community service, if you do whatever it is in society that needs to get done. Let's say we have road work we need to get done. On top of you, let's say you get road work job. And as long as it is a community-based thing, you still have your $1 million come in once you do your 60 hours of community work every year. I don't think we would have a problem. I don't think we would have any problem rebuilding our society. I think it is the lack of incentive why people don't do certain things. Ricardo,
Yes, sir. Good evening.
evening. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. And honestly, I think Jamaica might be overcrowded because the reason why all Jamaican leave Jamaica is because of money. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So Jamaica will be well, majority.
Well, we can't say some because some
Yeah.
people like foreign,
Right. But if we bring foreign to Jamaica, so to speak,
Well, I wouldn't go that far,
mhm,
because I am not saying we're supposed to build metropolis and we're going to import all of these things that we see foreign have or China have or all of that. But as for necessities, I think that I think Jamaica is fine. It's just that the opportunity and the oppression with the taxes and
mhm,
fees and all of them something there why, you know, Jamaica just seem like sometimes you never want bother. But
understandable.
I do think a lot of people would return under those circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my two sentence.
Okay, okay. Yeah, man, thanks for that. I think there are a lot of people around the world who would return to Jamaica if crime and violence would significantly decrease and no longer an issue. But at the same time, I think there are still going to be people who, want to leave the island. They want to go experience other places. They want to,
Which is
change
fine.
their view.
Which is fine. But at
Right.
least when they go, they're not going as a impoverished person.
Right.
They can experience what the land have there. Because they have the
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Although we're more capable people than most people in the world because anywhere we go we do prosper. Anywhere. So
That is true. And I also talked about this a year ago. People don't realize that over the past 30 years, Jamaicans have been integral in biological discoveries. You don't hear about that and you don't see that, But Jamaicans are very smart. And you can see that also from the White House to many different places. Jamaicans end up everywhere, in every corner and crevice of the world,
true.
in every industry. Once we focus on it, trust me, we can knock it out. You know. All right. Thanks, Ricardo.
No problem.
Um, Another thing that we should be bringing back to Jamaica is industry, not just farming, not just animal rearing. We have so much talent in Jamaica that is just undermined. It is not developed. It is not focused on. It is not cultivated. And it is sad. We don't have any research facilities for science and technology. We're not building anything on a major scale. We're not exporting raw materials or finished products and things like that. Most of what we are exporting is what? Food. And instead of us eating all the food that we produce, some of the food, even banana, we are importing. Can you imagine a small island like Jamaica is importing banana? Go in a supermarket and see the big fat banana them. And say, I know somebody ground that come from. Them banana they do not grow at Jamaica. You have so many things in our supermarket where you have to say, boy, this is cheap, you just shop a market and done. The supermarket them is just for foreign things, if you are so inclined. Anyways, we're not getting into that. But I think we should build industries in Jamaica. We can't just focus on foreign interests. Other countries keep on selling us everything. Everything. Why can't we have research and development facilities and start somewhere. Bring in external talent to even unconventional things. We see people do so many things in Jamaica. We have to just look and laugh. Right? I was wondering the same thing. I was asking if there were food banks in Jamaica. I have never seen a food bank. There are places who do volunteer stuff, but there is no dedicated food bank for people who are impoverished. But if we had a place where young children or people who cannot afford school, or they are not in school, or they are just interested in technology, any kind of technology, right? Then I think we would be not only innovative, I think we would be world class in a certain things. Me see people that build car in Jamaica. Then take out the engine, then take out everything within the car, and then put in other components where make it run off a battery, or it run off of water in some cases, it run off of electrolysis, something, all kind of things. Me see I go and I say, yo, me know say people are innovative, but we don't have the support, we don't have the encouragement, we don't have the facility, we don't have any kind of institution to help foster those ideas and build them into better things or different products, and we don't have none of that. All we have in Jamaica in many cases is consumerism. One of the things I wonder the other day, I say, look how much pitney go to school a year time. Look how much pitney graduate. Where are they going? Because there's not that many jobs in Jamaica for all of those graduates every single year. Every single year you have a barrage of people graduating and they have nowhere to go. Because I cannot imagine. You will have, let's say, on the low end, we have 50,000 graduates from either high school or college or both, right? Just on the low end. We have 50,000 people graduating. Are you telling me that all these 50,000 people are getting jobs in the field that they graduate school with? You know how much people I see on social media? I say, boy, you can't find a job, so they have to find something else. Then go do customer service, or them go to market, go make some money until them can go get a better degree, or if you go overseas. It is horrible. So we have a saturation point with the jobs, but the schools are still there teaching the same thing, and you're not coming out with a trade or a skill. You're coming out with basic knowledge. Basic knowledge, because what you learn in most cases, you cannot use it on its own. It is just complementary to an industry, complementary to a certain type of society, right? And if you don't have somebody to hire you, you cannot use those college skills outside of school until you get a chance to go work for somebody else. You say, what's the things we should have as mandatory for Jamaica? I can't say what should be mandatory for Jamaica, but I think there are a few things I can suggest. One is the law. That should be a mandatory thing in schools, a mandatory thing for everybody. Number two, I think mandatory, we should all have the option of self-defense weapons. We cannot continue as a society in today's day and age where we don't have any way of protecting ourselves and our families. That was supposed to be a constitutional guarantee, and today it is being restricted by government and licensing. I think that is atrocious. Number three, I think one of the main things we miss out on as a society is that we are thinking of money and work as something that everybody should do, when we are not necessarily talking about productivity. We just talk about money and work. I think that is a fundamental problem, because you can get money and you can work and you can still feel useless. You don't feel like you have contributed to anything. You don't feel like you have made a difference. You don't feel like you have made society better. So I think just focusing on money and work is a major problem in Jamaica. If we cannot put things in place where we say we are building our society, we are building Jamaica to be a better social structure. We are generally kind. We are not a warring people. But at the same time, we are taken advantage of because we don't have the mindset to realize that we can't just work. It's supposed to be production, productivity, creativity, coming together and sharing ideas and sharing talent and bartering. Just working and going a yard tired, that is not productivity. That is just a nice way of putting it as slavery, right? The next thing is that we don't have any social programs where we teach young people how and why they are supposed to behave a certain way. Let me expand on that. In today's day and age, we have children growing up without any adult figures in their life. They don't have any examples to look at. So you will have, there are a lot of homes that have one parent. And that one parent cannot be both parents, right? Not to say they cannot, provide good guidance for a child. But you see, back in my day, we had community where anybody in the community can talk to your child if there is something happening that's not supposed to happen. If them do something they're not supposed to, if them talk a certain way, if them in a one place where they're not supposed to do, they can get disciplined. If you try that today, you would either end up with charges against you, somebody will hunt you, the pitney themselves will try to fight you, all sorts of different things which show you that we have degraded socially. Right? The pitney them don't have no moral compass. So sometimes if it is not the police on the road or someone with a greater authority, greater than a parent, greater than a passersby, the children are not going to listen. And I think that is one of the fundamental problems that foster not only illiteracy, but crime. Because when someone is illiterate and they don't want to listen to anything constructive, it is not their fault per se, because as them say, how you see and grow with, that instilling in you. So it is the environment that is affecting a lot of people. But we can't blame the pitney them and I say them head tough and them feel know better. That kind of argument and talk is not going to fix a problem. And it's not like back in the day where you will have adults talking to us a few times and we will get it. Then pitney nowadays, if it is not fast and repetitive, just like the phone and the tablet, it go over them head. It is not reinforced anymore. So now them will sit down and them act like them are listen. But they're not. Them brain they somewhere else. Them are wait for the next dopamine fix from the phone or the tablet. Them want that high. Them want to go up on the phone or the tablet. Them want go watch a YouTube video. Them want to go laugh. Them want to go share something with them find funny. There is no moral compass to say these are values. This is why you should act this way. This is why you should behave this way. This is why you should speak this way. This is how you are respected. This is why you should value respect in society. None of them something not go on. In many cases. So the morality and the community outreach appears to have disappeared over the years. And I'm saying appears because it is not everybody that is like that. But for the ones that are giving problems, you can see there is no moral compass anymore. Right? So wherever they grow, whatever they've been left to do, because the parents them they are work, them not go left work and come in, consider and talk to Pitney. Right? A lot of times there are parents who just find it difficult. And then some parents, if you try to discipline them, discipline the children, or tell them, you know, that maybe they want to either them cuss you off or them not do nothing at all. Or so all of that to say, we need to bring back social institutions that instill values into children, explain to them why they need to have certain value systems, they need to have certain etiquette, they need to have certain morality about them, and teach them and show them, because again, they are used to everything on a screen now. Back in the day, we never have everything on a computer and a phone and a tablet. The most used app on your phone are Tetris or ping pong. Now they have everything up to TV can do on a phone. So we have to work harder to reach them now. Right? So at the end of the day, we can't blame everybody for everything. We just have to find a way to create solutions. And I think if we start having these social institutions return to communities, for example, if we have a gentleman's, or let me not say gentleman's, let me say a young men's club, right? So you see when the youth them done with school, you see when the youth them no have nothing to do, them supposed to can have somewhere to go. Not just sit down at the yard and play game, not just go play football. All of those things are okay. But for the one them who no want to do them something there, for the one them who want learn something, they want to be better, or them parents want them to be better, we should have some institutions for boys and some institutions for girls. Can teach the boy them how to become men, how to become responsible members of society, how to build their confidence, how to build their moral compass, how to, a lot of things, how to. The same thing with the women, the young girls. We teach them why they're not supposed to be doing certain things, what their priorities should be, or what their priorities can be, you know, how they can deal with certain situations. Counseling. Some children are going through depression. They don't have nobody to vent or talk to or get solutions. Them something they're supposed to just be there if people need it. It's not something outside of our capability. So that is how I think Jamaica can start becoming better. A lot of these things are community based. They may not national, well, I'm not going to say not national because I really all over the island miss this. But it doesn't appear that these things are a priority with the current government structure. So we have a chance again to change all of that. Because if we have, for example, parish command, and we know that we as a people can bring problems to the parish command, we can suggest things that are a problem in our communities, and then people can make suggestions. People can also, you know, volunteer if you have the expertise to help fix some of the problems in a society. That can be an incentive. That can be something that can work into an incentive within society. So all of the money that I get spent for no reason, or I get spent without anybody even caring what they are. What we can do? We can say, hey, listen, if you, let's say we have a lot of retired people in Jamaica, older people. If they can pass on their knowledge to the younger generation, that is a much needed institution where some of these people don't even care about money anymore. They just want to pass on the knowledge they have and the experience. Much needed institution where they can help to foster the productivity within society. The churches are not doing their part in the community, and most parents don't even know church. Well, that is a subjective view. I get what you're saying, but sometimes, we don't have any written rule that say the churches are supposed to do a certain thing. But really and truly, the churches are supposed to be community institutions. I don't see a lot of them helping. Again, me can't see the whole of Jamaica because I'm not going to say most of them not help. I know some of them have, youth program and things like that. But to what extent? We need national intervention. We can't have little yaso, little deso, something yaso. We need national intervention for some of these issues. Imagine when we have some of these young girls and young men, and just because they don't have hand to mouth, they don't have any kind of independence, they get taken advantage of by somebody with money. That should not happen. We should have a basic living condition for everybody, right? We don't want to foster laziness. You still have to be productive within society to have your own. But once you are productive, you should maintain your dignity. You should not have to succumb to somebody just because you don't have it. You can't live, a decent little life without somebody's input. What is that? Nobody should be drawing for scraps. So that's why these social programs should be incentivized, where if you are a productive member of society, you get $1 million a year, right? And that is that. So these are some of the things I think should be mandatory in Jamaica. If we as a people are supposed to rebuild it back, if we as a people are supposed to say, hey, this is what our society should be like. When foreigners come in to come visit and, they want to go and see places and see our culture and all them something, they look at it. I think so many people love our culture, both our natives and the visitors. And I don't think enough emphasis is placed on having people who just study our culture and infusing it and display it back to the world. Arts and crafts and them something there. We should have museum in every parish. Every parish should have their own unique museums. People bring in artifacts and different things that they think are of historical significance. We're not supposed to just have things, in one government place. It's ridiculous. It's we as a people supposed to show the importance of these things and, display it for those who, want to come and visit and, experience our culture. So, them something there. So, if we want to have that kind of power to be able to shape our society, we need to come together and we need to draft our constitution. And once we are done drafting the constitution, we move on to stage 2. But first, we need to complete the constitution. See? So far we are at Article 3. I think we're about halfway there now. We just finished discussing the criminal law and public order. sections. So for those who are late, this is a constitutional draft that we are building. And when we are done with the constitutional draft, we're going to be open to suggestions on making changes, making additions, refining, and making sure that we have a constitution that we, the people, put together and approve of, so that everybody have a say. Even if you don't input anything, at the very end, you will have a chance to sign off on it. Yeah, man, we can. A matter of fact, I don't think we have a motto right now. Out of many one people, hey, we have the chance to change everything, right? And we can integrate that into the document as well. A section that talks about whatever it is that we want, right? Because we born in a things, you know. We born come see things. But now it is our time. This is our time, so we get a chance to suggest and put together what we see fit. So if we want to change our motto, yeah man, just go to voiceofjamaica.com and you click on the new constitution, and you can make a suggestion right here on the form. So if you got a suggestion about a change or an addition, you can use this form right here and you can make your suggestion. You don't need to sign up or anything. You can just make a submission through the form. All right? So, if anyone has any questions, you can come up and we can further discuss any suggestions or emotional outbursts. Let me open up some more boxes. How do we get these boxes open? Yeah. So if you want to come up, you can pick a box. But like we said, the question, what is the time frame to have this done? The time frame to complete the constitutional draft, I would say 1 month. We don't want to stretch this thing out more than necessary. So within the next month, we should be done with the what we call the initial draft, right? So this is going to be completed, I would say, within the next 2 weeks. And then from there, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're supposed to can complete this, right? Once we are done with the initial draft, then we're going to start integrating the suggestions. And once we complete with the suggestions, we are going to have the signing. So by this summer, by end of May, June, we're going to publicize this document in full. And then we're going to have an opportunity for everyone to sign this document. Those who are in support of the document, we will start having the option to allow people to sign this document. How many signatures do we need? It's not what I need, you know. We need national support. So we are going to have to do this island-wide. What does that mean? It means that we are going to need a minimum of 100 people per parish. 100 people per parish. So 1,400 people. If we get 1,400 signatures, I think we can call that national support. And once we have national support, we will move on to the next stage. We don't need ratification. We don't need to be asking permission to do this. We simply make it public notice and send it to all the relevant authorities. And once that is complete, then we move on from there. So yes, it sounds like a big insurmountable task, but it is not. Okay? But one step at a time. No, it is not going to be online. We need physical signatures. Physical signatures. We're going to have people on the ground in Jamaica who will decide whether or not they want to be a part of the new Jamaica. Right? So again, some people will think it's a joke. Right? But just like church, just like any institution, this is only being catered only to those who believe in change, those who believe that Jamaica should be better. And we can only control what we have. We can only control our own actions. We are not here to get the entire Jamaica to agree with us. Right? It is the majority that rules in the end. So the majority who votes, the majority who takes action, and the majority who moves forward, that is ultimately what determines how society is supposed to be. And that's how it works. Just like in the current voting, we only had what? 300 and something thousand people who voted. That's what them say. So them claim 300 and something thousand people vote out of 3 million. So that wasn't even half. Wasn't even half of the population. But anyways, that is how that works. Oh, we have 43%, let's say.
Okay. So when we start, we can go in like groups or to hit certain areas in different parishes.
When that time comes,
Okay.
or close to that time, we discuss that.
Okay, no problem. We can.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so peeps, that is it for this evening. We're going to continue again on Wednesday. Big up on yourself. And we will continue on Article 4 next time. So this live is also going to be available on YouTube. I'm going to put the lives on the draft page as well. But this live and the other constitutional draft lives are going to be on YouTube. Let me see if I can bring it up. Okay. So if you type in Jamaicans Assemble on YouTube, here is the page, Jamaicans Assemble, and you will be able to see the constitutional draft live stream. So you will see the logo or the picture on the 3 live streams so far. So you can go and rewatch them if you want to see what we discussed previously. And this is also a public record that everyone can reference back to see that we did in fact go through these sessions and drafted the documents. So this is where the TikTok live is going to be in the next day or two. You're going to see the new this live that we did this evening show up here. All right, so big up on yourself, and we will continue on Wednesday. Peace and love. Lawful always.